Modern society cannot survive with the defensive king, am I my brother's keeper?
This is a dialogue about inequality, the issue of our time. A three-part series of dialogues facilitated by Dr. Johnna Montgomerie, Professor of International Political Economy at King's College, London. When we think about what is just, we think about who gets what. A distributive paradigm looks at wealth levels, material goods, and social position to evaluate the well-being of society. The term inequality refers to a lack of equality between different groups within society and asks whether it's just. For many, inequality is one of the greatest challenges facing humanity in the 21st century because it erodes prosperity and destabilizes society. How can we tackle the shared problem of climate breakdown when society is seriously stratified? Many of us can recognize inequities in everyday conversation, whether about race, gender, climate, or the historical geographies of inequality caused by colonialism. Inequality is another word for the serious social challenges facing human society, which are systemic and woven into the very fabric of daily life and are deeply unjust. Those least responsible for society's ills are suffering disproportionately. This only breeds further division in society when we need greater cohesion to solve collective problems like climate change and a viral pandemic.
How can it be that it's not a news item when an elderly homeless person dies of exposure, but it is news when the stock market loses 2 points?
19% of Black Americans have negative net worth today compared to 8% of white Americans.
The inequality has gone up in almost every country.
How long can you be peaceful when your people are dying?
A power imbalance, lack of accountability, and gender inequality.
Enough is enough.
Welcome, everyone. The Politics of Inequality Working Group here at King's has organized this virtual symposium as a way to break through the silos of academic disciplines and bring into dialogue those at the very cutting edge of research on inequality. We are bringing together academics, students, and practitioners who believe inequality is the issue of our time. We discussed together as a working group and then sought out our colleagues at other universities to share their ideas, research, and proposals with us. We asked them to explain what it means to call inequality the issue of our time. So let me introduce my colleagues, Drs. Lee Savage and Stephen Klein from the Politics of Inequality Working Group here at King's College London.
Not just being driven sort of by intellectual reasons, but also being driven by reality. The world has changed such that more narrow economic approaches no longer are as appropriate.
And when we discuss inequality, is like this difference between what we might think of as sort of the natural rate of inequality in the world, or what we call gross inequality, versus what we call net inequality, which is the level of inequality we see in countries after governments get involved through taxes and transfers. Because then we see that the level of inequality we observe in countries is a choice. It's a political choice.
Looking at inequality, we're really looking at the weight of the past. So it's not just in the here and now. It's not just about income inequality and how much money I make and somebody in the city makes, but it's about the accumulation that our families have behind us. And if you go out further, our societies, our countries, and our empires have been through. The fact that Europe is now the wealthiest place, more or less, on Earth comes from far, far away. And it's not to do just with European countries. It's to do with the accumulation of assets and dispossession of resources and people from the empire. So by looking at inequality, we really are looking at the weight of the past.
What is clear is that inequality has many overlapping registers. It connects history, geography, economics, and society together. What animates this dialogue is exploring the forms inequality takes.
What has emerged from our discussions is the importance of contextualizing inequality. If we talk about inequality just in economic terms as wealth or income levels, or as the Gini coefficient, then blind spots are formed which ignore the forms inequality takes in society. The most obvious to me are gender and racial inequalities, and the long-standing arguments made by feminists and people of color to recognize that class inequality is not just unidimensional. But when we think about wider social stratification, we combine understandings of the weight of history with the economic frames of income and wealth inequality. And we do this to recognize the conditions that create and reproduce inequality between groups in society.
Inequality, the issue of our time, is a presentation of the Politics of Inequality Working Group at King's College, London, supported by the Kings Together Fund and produced by Everything Podcast. Subscribe to Inequality, the issue of our time, wherever you find your favorite podcast.